Today, let's talk about 5 very common mistakes that Christians make while dating. I have personally made all of these, and if you have too, let me know in the comments. Welcome back to another episode of Life Advice You Don't Hear in Church. My name's Tiffany Dawn, and hit subscribe to see more videos like this. So let's jump right into it. Mistake number 1 is taking hypotheticals too seriously. Here's what I mean. We all have ideas about how our life is gonna go, but they're still kind of hypothetical ideas. It could be a very strong feeling or a sense of a call on our lives or just preferences, but they're still far down the road in the future, and we put a lot of weight on those hypothetical future situations. And there might be some that are deal breakers for you, but I think a lot of times we treat our hypotheticals as deal breakers, even if they're not. When I was growing up, it was like when you're dating somebody, you have to figure out if your life vision and mission aligns. Here's the problem though. I was like 17 with my first boyfriend, 20s with my next, and I thought I knew how my life was gonna play out, but I had no idea. I mean, where my life is today is completely different than where I thought it would be. Like my dream in life back then, as you may know, was to grow up, move overseas as a missionary with my husband, and be martyred or killed for my faith by like 22. So I would not even be alive today if my life had gone the way I thought. So when I was like 17, I'm like, would this guy be open to missions? Would they be open to martyrdom? You know, first date, like, so are you ready to die for your faith? And now like my life is just, I have 2 kids. I never thought I'd have kids. I live in upstate New York. And the only kind of missions I do is through YouTube and books. And my life, I'm sure, will continue to change over the years. But here's the deal. You don't know what your life will look like. Let me give you one more example of this. James and I, when we started dating, he's like, I really want to have 4 kids and homeschool them. And I was like, I don't know if I want any kids, and I definitely don't want to homeschool them. And so we kind of just talked about it and figured out, are we both flexible? Are we able to be flexible and grow together and realize like, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know if we'll be able to have kids. We don't know what our kids will be like when they're older, if homeschooling would be a good fit or not. We don't know how we'll change as individuals. Now, is it important to talk about your hypotheticals? Yes, it is so important, but here's what you should look for in those conversations. Number 1, can I be flexible in this thing that I want? Is this something I can be flexible in? Can I kind of wait and see what happens and realize life might turn out differently than I expected? Am I okay with that? And number 2, how do they respond when I think differently than they do? And you might find out, you know what? I don't think we're meant to be together. Or you might find out that you were about to write off our relationship too soon because you were taking hypotheticals too seriously. Mistake number 2 is we feel guilty for our excitement about a relationship, as if we're excited for something, it must not be God's will for us at all. I know I felt this way. When James and I started dating, I remember walking around the block trying so hard to focus and pray and being like, God, I'm a horrible Christian. I can't even pray. All I can do is think about this guy I'm dating. Like I must be like idolizing him in my mind and making him too big of a priority. And I just really felt like what God put in my heart was like, just share it with me. Just tell me about him. So I'm like, I can do that? Okay, well, like I'm dating this guy you already know. We had this great date. I'm so excited about where this could go. And I realized that if we can share our excitement with God and with the people who are close to us in our lives, with our community, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that it's a healthy enjoyment. If we feel like we have to hide the relationship from God or from the people we trust and who know us well, that's a sign that something may be out of balance. But that excitement is a beautiful thing. Now I see that as a parent in my girls. When they're so excited, it doesn't say to me they don't love me enough. I'm not jealous of all their excitement being about me. I delight seeing them excited about the little things in their life and their friendships and their clothes and everything else. And I think God is the same way. God is a good parent, and I think he delights in our excitement over these new things. Mistake number 3 is we assume that their faith will look exactly like ours. Here's what I mean. I remember growing up in a very charismatic church, and I would look around, and if there was a guy raising his hands and seeming on fire, I was like, that's the kind of guy I want to date. And if he wasn't, I was like, nope, doesn't take his faith seriously enough. And one day my mom was like, Tiffany, you don't know what that guy's thinking about with his hand raised. He could be thinking about what he's going to make for dinner. He could be thinking about this girl. Like that doesn't tell you anything. Like you can notice it, but you don't know what it means because you don't know him. And those guys who are just standing there, they could have this really deep faith in God and this really deep ability to love God and love others, but they're just less emotionally expressive in their faith. That doesn't mean their faith is less than yours. And I realized, like, I always thought everyone is going to express their faith like me if they're a real Christian. How judgy is that? I was so judgy. Oh my gosh. And I needed to realize, like, different people will express their faith differently. And different peoples will look differently. I mean, James and I even came from very different denominations. The churches that we went to when we were young adults, before we got together, were completely different styles than each other. And there are some theological things that we've disagreed on over the years, but that doesn't change the core. Like, we want to love God and love others. That's the core for both of us. And so all these other fillers, they don't have to look the same. They don't matter that much. And at the end of the day, the differences we had helped us grow as people. So don't assume their faith will look just like yours. That being said, if you want to grow in faith as a couple, you should definitely check out my Dating Couples Devotional Journal. I highly recommend it. It's a great gift for yourself or your significant other, and it's a devotional journal that you work through with questions that really kind of prompt you to dig a little deeper in your faith and what it means to each of you as individuals and how to grow in that together as a couple in a non-awkward way. And you work through 1 week at a time, all year long. Oh, I would have loved this when I was dating. So check it out on Amazon. It's linked down in the description below. Number 4, we isolate ourselves. With my first boyfriend, any of my friends, even if I'd had them for a long time, if they didn't like him, he didn't want me to be friends with them. And that should have been a huge warning sign to me. Like, this guy is trying to isolate you and control you and not let any naysayers be in your life. He wants only people who say yes to him in your life. Like, that's a big warning sign. And I started isolating myself more and more from the community I'd had for years and just kind of pulling back, not making time for them anymore. I was afraid that if the people I loved saw me with him, they would know that it was not a good relationship, and I didn't want to hear that. And it is important to prioritize the person you're dating. Yes, you want to get to know each other. That means you have to spend time together. And so, yeah, you're making them a priority, and there will be some acquaintances or more distant friends that you're not seeing as much. That's okay. But those people closest to you in your life, your support system, your community, the people you trust who have known you for years, you need them now more than ever. So don't isolate yourself. And lastly, mistake number 5 is avoid disagreements. I remember people saying, we're in a great relationship. We never fight, we never argue, we never disagree. And to me, that's actually a warning sign. I'm like, so if you've been together a while and you've never had a disagreement, that to me says, I wonder if you're both being totally honest with each other about what you think and what you feel, because 2 different people are gonna have 2 very different perspectives and feelings on different issues. It's just part of life. And you wanna be in a relationship where you feel safe enough to share those. And yes, you wanna do it kindly. You don't wanna have these like blow up fights that are like unhealthy and toxic, but you want to be able to share what you feel and have both people willing to hear from the other one what they think is different. And you want to have those disagreements so that you know, if we were to get married, is this person going to give me the silent treatment or go off and ignore me or try to control me? Or can we work through disagreements together? You want to know that. So don't avoid disagreements, but see what you can learn from them. As always, I want to hear your tips in the comments, and don't forget to check out this book on Amazon as a great gift. Love you guys, and I'll see you next week.